And as usual, we will start with the Pledge of Allegiance. Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Can I have a roll call, please?
Councilmember Lewis? Present. Councilmember Carlson?
Here.
Councilmember McKeithen?
Here.
Vice Mayor Whitmer?
Here.
Mayor Dobby?
Here. Before we start, I would like to announce that item number 31 has been removed from the agenda tonight, and it has been removed at the request of the two people that put it on, Councilmember McKeithen and Councilmember Whitmer. Do we have any presentations? Seeing none, I will go now to public comments. Before we start the public comments, I would like to point out that public comments, for which each of you have 3 minutes, are for items not on the agenda. They're not discussion items because they haven't been agenda-sized. And please, when you make your public comments, would you please address the council, not the crowd? Thank you.
William Grinley, Laurel Street. I'd like to give you a very quick briefing on the status of high-speed rail. The last 6 weeks have been very important for us. The first thing that happened was approximately 6 weeks ago, the peer review group of the California High-Speed Rail Commission sent out a report which, while not scathing, was not very kind to the authority or to its Board of Governance. The second was a federal move. The President submitted a budget, capital development budget called the Transportation Opportunities Act of 2012. The Department of Transport does its capital budgeting in 6-year lumps. This one will be 2012, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17. That capital development budget was put into a category called pay-go, which means that when that budget is submitted, it must be submitted along with documentations where, in this case, you must find either $37.6 billion, which was a request, of new fees or taxes, or you must find a way to cut programs equal to the amount that you were requesting. No documentation accompanied that, therefore it was pronounced dead on arrival both by opponents and proponents of high-speed rail. So even if President Obama wins the election next year, he will be gone at least 6 months before this capital development budget sees the successor for the years 2018 through 2024. Third thing that happened was Undersecretary of the Department of Transport, Federal Railroad Administration, Roy Kienitz, who grew up in Mountain View, graduated from Gunn High School, who I had a confrontation rather than a meeting with on December 7th of last year, responded to a letter from the authority, which basically, Mr. Kienitz's letter said, you will start in the Central Valley. You can't start in either end, i.e. the peninsula or Los Angeles, San Diego. You will start digging, i.e. you will start construction by 2012. And you can't do it just with federal money. You must indeed spend state money too. Finally, in the corker for the month of May was the scathing report from the Legislative Analyst Office, which just ripped through what the authority has been doing, as well as called for new governance. 2 bills, one from the Senate, one from the House, although different in both have their failings, have said the same thing, so they need to be reconciled. Yesterday, I held a meeting at my home of the 4 major groups on the peninsula: CARD, Californians Advocating Responsible Rail Design, Community Coalition on High-Speed Rail, the highspeedboondoggle.org, and as I call them, the finance guys, to share ideas, share important steps that they've done, as well as important steps we're going to take. I can guarantee you no one is backing down, even though the chances of building it on the peninsula are less than 1%. Thanks.
Are there any other public comments?
Good evening, Peter Carpenter. I would just like to take this opportunity to compliment both the staff and the council on the fact that I think that you're really coming to grips with some of the very important issues that we face fiscally. I know it's going to be painful. I know it involves difficult choices, but I just want you to know that I think it's commendable. As I look at your agenda this evening, I look at the reports from the staff, I really feel confident that the city is now moving in the right direction, and I wanted to thank you, and I want to thank the staff for the work that they've done.
Lauren Gruner. First, I want to say I completely understand how complicated and difficult your role is, and how tough it's been our financial situation as a town. However, I have to say I was very shocked and hurt and upset to hear about so many of these cuts happening so drastically. I've worked extensively with the building department. I've worked with our town arborist. I worked with a lot of the people who are staff in this town, and I think the fact that we are just wiping so many people off the board, there's a huge amount of intellectual property, intellectual knowledge of our city and how it operates walking out the door. I think that one of the things that I feel as a citizen we had the opportunity really was to put that out for a vote and really determine as a community whether we're willing to pay more in a tax of some sort strictly to the city to fund some of these roles. I know that it's been talked about a lot, but possibly we need to start considering maybe there's some other ways to structure things. Maybe we allow a couple of coffee shops to function in the town so we can get some revenue from sales tax. I know that hasn't historically been the city's view, but I just hate to see us outsource everything, because I think the service level is going to go down pretty drastically as far as the knowledge, and I really think over time you're going to hear a lot of people complaining about that. The other thing I was going to mention is that there is this other little bubble. We see LinkedIn that just went public. You've got Groupon that's in the process. So there are a lot of companies now that are going public, and you're going to see this other big flow of new residents coming into Atherton, and I think you'll see the property values start going up again. So I'd like to see us value how much our employees have given us through the years. And I think that if you are letting everyone go, please make sure that your HR is all in a line, strictly very, very clean, so that we don't end up with any more lawsuits from disgruntled employees, because I think that's the reason that we're really here and right now in a lot of our financial crises, because I just want to say to all of the staff that I've been incredibly happy as a citizen, and I'm extremely sad to see this happen. So thank you.
Any other comments? Please state your name.
My name is Rudy Gonzalez. I'm a representative with Teamsters Local 856. Good evening, Honorable Mayor and Council. I'm here on behalf of our members who work in the Building and Public Works departments. Unfortunately, I notice on the budget, the first step in the privatization of public services appears to be before you tonight, in the form of a contract for an interim public works director that will, surprisingly, was the same person, I think, that conducted the efficiency study and will now reap the benefits of tax dollars. And I think your agenda says to the tune of $14,500 per month. It's a little alarming. I think the contract will be with the town, but I'm afraid the loyalties might still be with the contractor, Interwest. In any event, the current budget before you includes a proposal to outsource some services, or all services, in public works and the building departments. As you may know, our bargaining unit members have put a proposal forward with their union that far exceeds the estimated savings of $267,000 in the form of savings that look at concessions. I mean, they want to contribute more to their pensions and take furloughs to the tune of $300,000 to $500,000. We ask that you carefully consider those. The public servants in Atherton are dedicated to the community that they serve. They have a vested interest in this town. We would caution that a private contractor will have an interest in a bottom line, and that public service will ultimately be impacted by outsourcing. Contracting out can show short-term savings, but unfortunately the institutional knowledge that you lose, you just can't put a price on. It's also known that contractors and outsourcing groups will lowball, they'll purposely underestimate the cost of the service just to get the buy-in and get the bid awarded. And as their costs increase and as profits take over the role of public service, there will be a shift in their costs, and eventually those contracts go up. The other unfortunate byproduct is as the city loses those employees, they lose that institutional knowledge. They lose the ability to serve the citizens the way they used to, and then they're held hostage by the contract. They're completely dependent on this outsourced firm. If the cost goes up, the town will have to suffer with that. In practice, outsourcing also harms flexibility. It's impossible to design bid specifications, RFPs, and contracts that will foresee all future needs of the town. Unfortunately, the city may lose its ability to respond to new issues that arise. I would respectfully ask just a couple of things here. Please exclude the proposal to outsource those departments in the current budget before you. I would request that you hold a public hearing and allow the public to weigh in more on this topic before a decision is made. And lastly, you've already done so, but I'd ask you to continue to respect the collective bargaining process. These members have shown you that they're willing to take concessions to maintain public services. We'd ask that you not outsource Atherton's future. Thank you.
Anybody else? Melinda?
Melinda Tubbs, Tallwood Court. About a year ago, there was a lot of talk about you're the board members and we're the shareholders, and that worried me at the time because the town is more than just a business. But anyway, things have become very money-driven. It might actually be easy for you. We now have, instead of having 3 attorneys, we have 3 businessmen. In the spirit of all of that, I tried to ask at the last council meeting what I thought was a very reasonable question. Since in February you approved $48,000 to Interwest to review building and public works, and $25,000 to PMC for the police department. So that's $73,000 worth of reports. And I asked a month ago, not knowing the pink slips were going to come out the next day, what the availability and status of those reports were, since they're the basis, I suppose, that's driving your decision. I didn't expect an answer because I know you don't have to answer us. But really my question for Mr. Connors, please. I actually had a council member tell me that it was illegal for you to respond to public comments. I've been to almost every council meeting for 7 years now, and until fairly recently we did commonly get a response to a public comment. Can we all get on the same page? I know, I thought you didn't have to answer, but that you could. How does it work? If we have 3 minutes a month to participate in the town, and you can't talk to each other and couldn't even have a closed session meeting tonight, and you can't respond to us, I'm just sort of wondering what the point is. Could you respond? How does it work?
Go ahead.
Actually, the Brown Act allows for a, quote, brief response, meaning if you said, is there going to be a meeting in 2 weeks, then we could say yes or no. But if you ask something that the public might want to know the answer to, like if you were to ask the city manager, what is going to happen with these positions in your estimation? Well, the public would have a right to know that, and the way they get to know that is it's agendized, it's put in the news, and it goes out to everybody ahead of the meeting so that everybody that would like to weigh in on that issue has the opportunity. And by simply showing up and putting something out there, the members aren't ready, legal staff's not ready, the rest of the staff, we're not prepared. So the Brown Act is very clear. It says we can basically, like right now, give you a brief answer, and if there needs to be a follow-up, you can certainly contact any of us, the staff, and you'll get follow-up. We aren't closed down just because there's no meeting on. We're here all the time.
Okay, so brief for public comments and more thorough for anything that's on the agenda, but the council members are allowed to answer if they want.
They're not allowed to answer in a substantive way. They're allowed, if you ask a factual question, to give you a quick factual response, not opinions or debate, because that requires the public to know that it's going to come.
But Melinda, the other thing here, very simply, is that the town is open all week. The staff is here all week, so if you have issues which you want to bring up, you can talk to the staff, and then if the staff feels it appropriate and the council feels it appropriate, they can be put on the agenda.
My question was to the council. I know I can call the staff.
Hello, council. My name is Joseph Aiello. I'm the building inspector with the town. Last time I was here, I explained the municipal enterprise fund and how it is supposed to work and how it works. Basically, if a building department is as busy as we are here and getting busier. There's no legitimate reason for you to lay off staff. We're very busy, as a matter of fact, and getting busier. In 08-09, we brought in $1,085,715.91, and we had 13 full lot developments. In 09-10 fiscal year, we brought in $918,037, and we had 16 full lot developments. This current year, which has yet to conclude, we've brought in $1,246,988.72. We've got 25 full lot developments and counting. This is continuing on an upward trend. So there, again, I'm going to say that there's no legitimate reason that anyone would have for cutting staff in a municipal enterprise funded department. Those are the numbers. There's no arguing with those. The other thing is I also brought up our current salaries versus the salaries of the contract employees. And in a recent article, Mr. Dobby and Mr. Carlson, I'll use their numbers because they're exactly the same as the ones I provided you before. It ends up current town employees are 15% less than contract workers, and that's including medical benefits and a retirement benefit. That's the math. There's no denying it. There's no arguing with it. Another thing I would like to bring up is the building department has a reserve account. But all through negotiations, I asked where it was and how much was in it, and I couldn't get an answer. Could any of you see that I can get an answer to that question? To the comment, we have been depleting our reserves at an alarming rate. I'm just going to say again, not the building department. We're operating very efficiently, and we're very busy, and we're bringing in enough money. And I'd like to also explain, to finish, that institutional knowledge, we have 50 years of it now. You would have to have a crew of contract employees that stuck around to collectively accrue 50 years of institutional knowledge. And just because a couple people like the smile of new people, that doesn't protect the town the way that this institutional knowledge does. Thank you for listening.
Malcolm, you next.
Thank you. Honorable Mayor and members of the council, Malcolm Dudley. I think in all of your time on this council, the most important decision you'll be making tonight is the one before you, whether or not we outsource. Now, it's not that I'm against outsourcing. In my 24 years in the council, we did a lot of outsourcing. We still do. Our city attorney, instead of having a full-time person on the staff, is outsourced. Planning is outsourced. Vehicle fleet maintenance is outsourced. Just today on your agenda, you've got 10 items where projects are to outside vendors. So it's not a matter of being against outsourcing. To me, what really matters here, and what certainly has been part of the heart and soul and character of this community, is we care about the community and the family, and our employees are part of that family, an important part of it. They're dedicated people. Now, I have a personal experience. Our younger daughter was a paramedic firefighter in San Francisco for 12 years until she had young children. Well, just last Friday, she was at a memorial for two of her former colleagues and friends who died in the course of their commitment to their duty, to their community, the people they're serving, their family. How we could treat people with any less respect and concern and caring here, I don't understand. Now, I do know that there are some who have the perception that we have a fiscal crisis. I don't agree. Anytime we can solve the entire problem at $1 a day per parcel hardly means a crisis. Now, I'm a Navy captain. In the Navy, we have a word, extremis. And when you reach a point where you may have a collision at sea, that's when you use all evasive maneuvers to avoid that collision. I was personally involved towing a vessel back that had been split open with bow and stern cracked like a can of sardines. We lost a number of crew. We hoped to be able to get them back safely, but that is extremist. Atherton is not an extremist. And I think that, I read some of the comments from our mayor and Jerry, was concerned that CalPERS may be using unrealistic projections. Well, I'm in the investment business. Their projection is 7.75. Now, I can't forecast the future. I don't have a crystal ball. But what I do know is instead of a forecast, is an aftercast. The last 20 years, their return has been 7.79%. The average return on other public pension funds has been even greater than that. So that number is very realistic. I have some charts I'd be happy to give you showing that the Dow, and of course, the allocation there is 60% equity, about 10% real estate, fixed income's about 20% in cash. The return on the market for the last 20 years, which includes 10 of the worst years we've had in history in the market, the return was over 10%. That's the equity. This is an allocation. So what I would ask you is three-step procedure here. I think it's very important that you find out how the community feels about this. We did this. 30 years ago, we had a similar crisis, much worse than this. When Prop 13 passed, we knew we had lost revenues. So into the community. That's the right thing to do. And based upon the response from the community, they wanted to maintain services. They're willing to pay for it. We haven't increased our parcel tax for many years. I think it would certainly be reasonable that we did that. It's the right way to show that we care for the communities. Jim Jantz and I recently had occasion, we were talking.
Your 3 minutes is up.
Yeah, all right. We had occasion to hear from two of our employees. One in tears. The town doesn't care. I cannot believe we lack that. So let me make one last comment. I would ask that the council do a survey. Based upon the results of the survey, do a special election. Based upon that, you have a city manager. I spent a couple of hours with him. He has the leadership that he could organize this as the most efficient town. That's what we should do. Now, if the city's unwilling to do it, I would ask one last request. Give us 3 months. And if you won't do it, we'll do an initiative. We've done that in the past on the Dumbarton. All we need is 740 signatures. Then you'll put it on the ballot. So give us the time. Show us some respect and love for the people that care for this town. Thank you.
Honorable council members, my name is Cleveland Prince. I'm Teamster Local 856 representative representing the police department, POA. But I'm also an interested observer. For all my life, I've been living in and around this community. My grandmother even worked in this community for a family that was here back in the 60s. That's how old I am, by the way. But my concern is the soup du jour that almost every community is talking about is outsourcing, as if that is the panacea for all your ills. Outsourcing takes away your ability to control your town and to control your expenses and to work with people who actually care about your town. The employees that work here choose to work here because they believe in the philosophy, the mission, and all the things that go into making this town. They believe in the residents. They give their lives to this. This is not a job they choose to work here. To run this as simply widgets in a manufacturing company does a disservice to the people who really choose to work here and live here. Their families, they brag about, I work in the town of Atherton. For years, I used to ride my bike through Atherton, and it felt like a good place. Palo Alto, Atherton, Menlo Park, we grew up here. And to now see that, let's outsource our people, let's get rid of our people and give the contract to the lowest bidder who does not have a vested interest in your town. The workers here have a vested interest. This has become their life. We ask that you respect them and the gift and the responsibility that they show and the accountability they show to this town and reconsider your position. Thank you.
Who's next? Carol?
Good evening. Carol Flaherty, 10 Camino por los Arboles. I'm going to give different comments than I prepared for tonight. I noticed that most of the clapping is by the city employees, not by the residents of the town. Jim and Jerry, I read your article yesterday in the Almanac with great interest, and I read the one by Jim and Malcolm the previous week with great interest. The fact of the matter is that none of us really disagree that we have a problem, a fiscal problem in town, and I had a very productive meeting with Jim for an hour and 15 minutes last week where he went through some of the issues with me and some of the proposals, and I thought your comments were extremely insightful and thoughtful, and I thank you for your time. And kudos to you all for bringing such a seasoned professional to the town. The fact of the matter is, we do have a financial crisis, and the answer to the problem is not to raise the parcel tax, which we had great difficulty with the last go-round. If you looked at the master fee schedule, backup detail, the 200 and some pages 2 years ago, you saw every salary for town employees in that backup detail. And at that time, it was very apparent that those salaries and the benefits were way above corporate levels and above the levels paid by other towns. And the situation has not corrected itself. There's no fundamental problem with outsourcing, but I'd like to give you our own experience within the building department with outsourcing over the 27 years that we've been involved in the town. It used to be that we outsourced some of the engineering and building plan reviews, and it was the luck of the draw whether you got an in-house or a out-of-house reviewer. If you got out-of-house, it took on average 3 to 4 months to get the first series of comments back. We currently have Muni Services that does the outsourcing on our business licenses, and that has become a great source of problem for us and our subcontractors, as it takes 6 to 8 weeks to get a license number. We don't pay those contractors until we get their license number or they provide a copy, and they're up in arms over the 8 weeks that it takes. So my concern is not over outsourcing in general, and I personally think we have to do some of it. And I personally think that we have to tighten the belt in the town and probably have some of the layoffs that have been proposed. Quite candidly, this town cannot run at the deficit that is proposed. You're quite right on that. But I asked you to really study the amount of time that it's going to take to get the services rendered if we go the outsourcing route, and are the financial benefits going to be what has been proposed? I think there are going to be problems with timing, and I think the financial benefit may not be as great as we think. Lastly, I ask you not to have these discussions at 8 o'clock on Monday morning in meetings that very few of us know what the nature of the real meeting is, and to have a serious town discussion with input like this at an evening meeting. Thank you.
Who's next?
Colleen Anderson. I'm going to change it up a little bit from all the other things. First of all, what I tried to say last time, it was about the trash can size. In a 20-gallon trash can, you're lucky to fit 7. And when they take the machine and dump it out, if there's still stuff stuck in the bottom, so when you're saying, oh, we hope people don't have 5, there's no way I'm not getting even close to 20 gallons in there. I'm lucky to get one of the Costco bags in. So just so you know, if there was a different size trash can, that may be better, and maybe but if you please look at the way it's designed, you can't fit 20 gallons in it. That's number one. Number two is I'd really like you to reconsider review boards. A number of lawsuits have hit this town by employees, and if I had had somewhere to go when Pilar Buckley asked me for a loan, which made me very uncomfortable, or when the 2 officers, and a lot of the police force is absolutely amazing, but when I heard